In this video, we're going to discuss the planning and carrying out investigations step of establishing variables. This is covered in your digital interactive notebook on this page. If you haven't read it yet, or you haven't watched the video yet, pause this video and do that first, and then come back here. So now we're ready to take a closer look at these three parts of establishing variables in an investigation. The first one is determining control. These are all of the things in an investigation that you keep the same. We like to look at this as the things that we want to keep fair. One mnemonic to help you remember it is the word con, is that they stay constant. Constant is like a synonym for the same. Your independent variable is what you decide to change in an experiment. I like to think of it as what I'm going to manipulate or I'm going to change. So when we're looking at an experiment, we try to recognize the things that we're going to change to see what happens as a result. Finally, the dependent variable is what you observe happens. And this would be the information that you collect data on. So if I make a change and something happens as a result, that thing that happens is considered the dependent variable. And that's what the scientist is going to write down as their data that they collect. Now we're going to break this down a little bit more as we look at a few examples. So here we're taking a look at a scientific investigation involving how does total weight of a car affect its speed? And that's a question for our investigation. And then the next thing we do in an investigation is we establish the variables. And I like to think of the variables as being a plan. So in this case, we originally wrote, I plan to use a car, a ramp, measure the speed of the car, change the weight each time I try the experiment. We talked about this being kind of like preparing your ingredients for baking. But scientists have to take this a step further. They have to determine what the dependent variable is going to be and what the independent variable is going to be. And as our previous example showed, the independent variable is the thing that you change. In our case of the car ramp, we're going to be changing the weight each time we test the car. So since I, as the scientist, am changing that, that becomes the independent variable. Then the dependent variable is the data we collect. So every time we change the weight of the car, we're going to see if it goes faster. That becomes the dependent variable because we're going to collect the data on how fast the car went. Another example. Here, we've developed a question. We are studying some paper towels, and we want to know if the school paper towel is less absorbent than a brand name paper towel. As we establish our variables, it's our plan. We plan to use pieces of paper towel from the school and brand name pieces and test their ability to soak up water in a cup. We're going to break that down a little bit further. This first card focuses on the data that's going to be collected as a result of this experiment. And this one is I plan on changing the brand of paper towel by trying 3 different brands. So can you figure out which is the dependent variable and which is the independent variable? If you guessed what I'm changing is the brand of paper towel, you're right. That's the independent variable in this example. I will measure, observe, and collect data. Dependent variable is collecting the data, so in this case, this is the dependent variable. The last thing we're going to try in this video is a couple practice examples that are similar to your notebook. A couple practice examples that are similar to your interactive notebook, and they're here down at the bottom of this page. So we have Andrew creating a test to identify which temperature water dissolves a Jolly Rancher faster, cold, room temperature, or hot. So let's think about what we're trying to find. We want to find what his control is, what his independent variable is, and what his dependent variable is. Now I remember that independent variable is the thing that I'm going to change. And it looks like Andrew is going to be changing the temperature of the water. He's trying 3 different temperatures, cold, room temperature, or hot. So that's the independent variable. The next thing is he wants to know how fast the Jolly Rancher is going to dissolve. So he's going to measure that data. That becomes the dependent variable, how fast that Jolly Rancher dissolves. And Everything else is going to be considered the control. So when he creates his test, he's going to use the same type of Jolly Rancher, probably the same color Jolly Rancher, the same size glasses of water. So that really makes almost everything else become the control in Andrew's experiment. So I'm just going to put Jolly Rancher, and maybe I'll duplicate it and say creating a test. Those things become Andrew's control. Let's try this other one. Jane is testing to see if color affects memory. People will play 2 matching games, one in color and one in black and white. Jane will time each person and compare data from the 2 tests. Well, it looks like Jane is going to have 2 different tests. So she's changing the tests that she gives. There's one in color and one in black and white. So she is changing this variable. So that makes one in color and one in black and white Jane's independent variable. So we're going to highlight that in pink to represent the independent variable. The thing she's going to measure is going to be the time it takes each person to take the test. So that's the data she wants. And then finally, her control from this experiment is going to be the people and the amount of people that take the test. The fact that the test is identical test, it's just different in terms of the color, but the content of test will be the same. So all that becomes the control in this experiment. So this is the same thing that you're going to do on your digital interactive notebook. So all you're going to do on your interactive notebook is drag the pink highlighter strip onto the examples that are the independent variable, drag the teal colored highlighter strip onto the data that's being collected, the dependent variable, and then anything else that seems to be its control to keep it fair is going to be considered the yellow highlighter strip for control.